Hey, I'm Aleksey Stukalov, as it was announced, and we are. First of all, I hope you enjoyed the previous session, all the previous sessions, and now we are up to the closing session for today. And this session is going to be about Bootiful IntelliJ. And from the name of the session, you probably can reveal who is going to be the speaker today. Is Josh Long. Hi, Josh.
Hi. How are you? Good to see you, Aleksey.
How are you?
Good. I'm. We don't have a slide prepared for this particular thing, so I've got your name on screen here, my friend Aleksey, and then this is me. I'm Josh right there.
And I'm lucky. I'm really lucky that I need to actually introduce you because you don't need an introduction. As in the previous talk, you hear what they said?
Oh my.
It's Josh. Everybody knows Josh. But let me be more precise. It's Josh Long is a developer advocate for Spring.
Right.
Big
fan.
Since what year do you practice this job?
I've been on the Spring team officially since 2010, and as a contributor to the projects for years before that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Let's move forward, right? What are we going to be speaking about today?
Well, my friend, look, I got to tell you, I'm really excited to be here. I do lots of demos. I talk about Spring all the time. I spend every waking minute, as often as I can, using Spring on stage at speed. And I always use IntelliJ. IntelliJ is my friend. It's what's in my toolbox. It's how I get from here to there, you know. And it's always been such a reliable companion. So I'm really excited today to be using Spring to demo IntelliJ, as opposed to using IntelliJ to demo Spring, right? So that's going to be a unique turn of the tables today, you know. And I know you guys and gals have all been working on some really great stuff.
Yes. So we started to more collaborate with each other with Spring team and IntelliJ. So we make sure that we're delivering the best support for Spring for our users.
Right.
And we share the users.
Right.
That's a good thing.
It's a wonderful ecosystem. That's a good point. Last week at the other conference, we announced a formal sort of collaboration between the two teams.
Formalized collaboration. Yeah. It was there for years, but now we finally
informally. Now it's formal.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's really exciting. That kind of stuff to see that sort of virtuous feedback loop innovating and working like that. Super cool. So, look, I want to get something out of it. I want to clear the air right now. Okay, there's an elephant in the room, and I think we should just talk about it right now. I'm going to be moving a little bit slowly today. Okay. A little bit.
How come?
Well, I've undertaken a spiritual journey.
Which one?
Okay, I'm learning Vim motions. And as a result, I'm just not moving as quick as I used to. You might have seen last week at that other conference in beautiful Barcelona, there was a conference talk by our friend and your colleague Anton Arhipov called El Rapido, coding like Josh Long, and it's from how to use and wield and control the amazing IntelliJ IDEA to make the most out of every keystroke.
To get closer to your speed, actually.
Right, but actually I'm not moving that quickly because I've I'm learning a new way of moving through the buffer. So just if you're wondering what's going on, of all the times to be slow, it's on this conference at this time. But there you go. There's what that is. Okay. And so then the next question is, my friend, what are we going to talk about, right? Like we need a domain, we need a sample application. I think about this a lot.
It's always about pets, right? When we speak about Spring, we speak about pet cleaning.
Right. Well, I don't want to do Spring Pet. I mean, I bet your audience probably knows the Spring Pet Clinic. This is a famous application that's been around for like 20 years. Right?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. It's not the same code from 20 years ago. You can see it's been updated as recently as 3 weeks ago, right? And so it's there. You can certainly update it and use it if you want. There's even a whole GitHub organization full of different permutations or flavors or variants, if you will, of the Spring Pet Clinic. And we could look at that. But I just feel like that's too much. You know me, I like to start small and scale up and out if I need to.
So you want to build it up from scratch today?
Yeah. And I thought, well, we could do the Spring Pet Clinic. I don't know, it's too much. So instead I thought, well, we could keep the domain. The domain is familiar. You know, everybody loves animals. Right?
Animals are amazing.
Dogs, cats, pets, that kind of thing. Just everybody. Everybody loves animals. I love animals.
You have a dog, right?
I love almost all animals. Almost all animals, except my dog. My dog is terrible. He's the worst dog. His name is Peanut, and Peanut is not a good boy. Okay, but we love him anyway. We keep him for 3 reasons. Okay, the first is that even terrible dogs deserve loving homes. Okay, and that's a fact. That's just a bedrock fact. So there's that. Part 2 is ego. It's ego. I'm just going to be honest with you, my friend. It's ego. You see, in my home, my partner and my daughter, they both speak 5 languages. I only speak 3.5. So if we didn't have that stupid dog, then I would be the stupidest in the house. That will not stand, okay? It will not stand, so we keep him for that reason. And then final reason is just being very honest with you all here today, just being really honest, is he is very cute. I mean, this is a very cute dog. Very cute,
Wow.
but yeah, very cute, but evil. Pure malevolence.
It doesn't look like that.
I know. On the outside, he's very cute, but he's pure malevolence, and so not a good dog. And actually, that's the best way to experience Peanut is through a photo in a different continent, right? He can't get to you from here. So anyway, Peanut. I think about Peanut a lot, and then he reminds me of another dog about which I learned during the pandemic. Did you ever learn about this dog, Prancer? See, Prancer's owner, back in 2021, this is during the pandemic when we were all in lockdown, Prancer's owner put out this ad trying to find a new house for this dog. It went viral, a very funny, very sad, very funny ad. And she describes this dog. She says, okay, I've tried for the last several months to post this dog for adoption and make him sound palatable. The problem is he's just not. There's not a very big market for neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dogs that look like gremlins. But I have to believe there's someone out there for Prancer because I'm tired and so is my family. Oh, this poor dog. Can you imagine? If you own a Chihuahua, you probably know what I'm talking about. He's literally the Chihuahua meme that describes him as being 50% hate and 50% tremble. And she continues. She says, his first week, he was too terrified to have a personality. As awful as it sounds, I was excited to see him come out of his shell and become a real dog. I'm convinced at this point that he's not a real dog, but more like a vessel for a traumatized Victorian child that now haunts our home. Oh, God, this poor dog. So, this thing just goes on, right? It's very funny. She says, we already addressed the men and children situation. If you have people over, he'd have to be put away like he's a vacuum. I know finding someone who wants a Chucky doll in a dog's body is hard, but I have to try. And she signs off and she warns, oh, he's only 2 years old and will probably live to be 21 through pure spite. So take that into account. So this poor dog, this is slander. This poor dog probably doesn't deserve half of this, but it's a very funny thing and also very cute dog. I mean, look at the dog. That's a very cute dog. I'd pet that dog, right? So very cute. And I think about these terrible dogs all the time, right? My terrible dog, this terrible dog. We should build something to support.
They could be friends.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to keep them in the same continent, but yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a service to support adopting dogs. By the way, this dog, Prancer did get adopted, if you're wondering. This dog went viral, right? Here's a BuzzFeed talking about Prancer, the nightmare Chihuahua, right? And oh, so cute. And then here's the New York Times talking about the demonic Chihuahua finds a home, right? New York Times. So don't worry, Prancer's fine. But I just think about the dog a lot, right? And so we're going to go as always, to my second favorite place on the internet, start.spring.io, and we're going to build a new application here.
I know you normally do this, but because normally you know it, how you name it, Bootiful Spring, right?
Right.
But today is Bootiful IntelliJ
fair point.
So yeah, we can move straight to IntelliJ. Moreover, it uses your second favorite site on the web.
Okay, so we'll do that instead. I've got IntelliJ open, and we're going to create a new project. Now, by the way, what IntelliJ do I have? Am I using something that everybody else can get right now?
It's a very special version now because it's going to work for this demo. We specially cooked it. It's an early access version,
right?
That only you and me have.
But now most features that we show today will work for everybody. But there's a few small things that should work for you soon.
But they're coming.
Right now.
They're coming. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things we did before we got on stage is we installed and enabled, and this is available for everybody already, right? The Spring Debugger. Right?
Yeah, Spring Debugger is available for everybody. It's not yet bundled into the main version, but for only reason because we want to make sure it's absolutely stable. It's not harm you, and if you want to experience great Spring magic in runtime, just install it and see what it can do for you. We're gonna show some little bit of this.
Right. So this is you can already get this. Go to the marketplace in your settings, whatever this window is, and install it. Okay, and then enable it. That's the other bit right there. You should be enabled once you've installed it. Okay, I've already done that. I'm not going to do it again. Just if you're trying to follow along at home, do that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create a new project here. We're going to create a new Spring Boot project. And by the way, as you mentioned earlier, this wizard is powered by start.spring.io. I don't know if
it's not a website.
Yeah,
it's a tool that you can use.
So you can do HTTP start.spring.io, right? And that's actually a web service. You can see there's some even commands here. So all this wizard does, this very nice integration in the IDE, is it gives you the same flow as you would get if you went to the website. And it's just more convenient because now it's at your fingertips here. So what are we going to do? We're going to create a new service called Adoptions. Okay, I'm going to call it Adoptions because I'm amazing with names. Amazing with names. I get that from my father. My father was amazing with names. When I was a small boy, we had a small white dog, and my father named him White Dog. Again, really good with names, okay? We have a choice about what build tool we want to use. Look, anything's fine. I'm going to use Maven just because that's what I'm most familiar with. We're going to use what version of Java do we want to use?
Always latest.
Always the latest, right? And in fact, while Spring technically supports Java 17 and later, I can't imagine any context where you'd ever want to use that in polite company, right? I mean, Java 24 is technically superior in every way. It's faster, more robust, more syntax-rich, more performant, operations-friendly. It's technically superior. It's also morally
ecological-wise, yes.
Right. And it's morally superior. You won't like the look of sadness in your children's eyes when they see that you're using Java 17 in production. Don't do this. Be the change you want to see. It's also mathematically superior, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it is.
Because if you think about it, Java 24 is 3 times the value of Java 8, right?
Oh yeah, by the way.
Mathematically true, right?
Yep.
So Java 24.
But we stay with Java, right? We are not going to use Kotlin today.
You're right. We could use Kotlin. Kotlin's another one of those things where we are, as a team, really working together, right? What is it? We announced support for that, right?
Yeah. During, you know that there were 2 events, same dates. Spring I/O and Kotlin Conf, they were just completely same dates.
Right.
And I know, by the way, I know 2 persons who managed to visit both.
Right.
Sebastian Deleuze.
Who's amazing Sebastian Deleuze, yeah?
Yeah, you're going to see him. You're going to see him tomorrow, right?
Right.
With his talk about JSpecify and the way how Spring finally can beat the problem with with nulls.
Right. So that's a good point. It's not just Spring, right? This is a talk. This is a blog that he put out a few months ago. And we won't give away the plot, but basically, this will give Java, the language, a way to describe nullability via annotations. And that's supported by the IDE. It's supported at the build time layer, and it's supported all throughout Spring, right? So this is super exciting. And of course, you want to hear about this from somebody as brilliant as Sebastian Deleuze. This, Tony Hoare, Sir, I think he's actually a Sir. I think he's a knight. I could be wrong. Anthony or
we can check it.
Yeah. Anyway, the great Tony Hoare, he's the person that coined the phrase or the idea that null was the $1 billion mistake. And
wasn't that?
It wasn't that. No, it was PHP. Obviously, he got that wrong. But still, it's a problem. Right,
so
it's a problem.
We discount that problem, right?
Yeah,
it's now $500 million.
Right, exactly. So it's still a problem. It's just it's not the worst one. So okay, so that's you could use Kotlin, and there's some really great support there, and you can But okay, for our purposes, just because I think, what do you think? Do you think a lot of people are using Java?
I think more people are using Java nowadays, but we are advancing with Kotlin. We're trying to make Kotlin #1 choice because this is developed by our company. Obviously, we are putting lots of efforts on that.
Huge fan.
It's a great thing that now we formalized our roadmap in how to bring Kotlin to the level of support that people find superior.
Right.
And we'll see what comes out of this collaboration. But I'm really thrilled and I'm really excited what we can do there.
Me too. So let's go ahead and now add things to our build here. We're going to use the Spring Boot dev tools. We'll use the GraalVM native image support. We're going to use, by the way, have you noticed that we're using Spring Boot 3.5? This was just released.
Yeah, it was just released a few days ago.
Last week, like 10 days ago, whatever. This is the new version. Very important. If you're going to be on a version of Spring Boot, make sure you get to 3.5, because what happens later this year?
Spring 7, Spring Framework 7.
And Spring Boot 4. So that's in November, I think, of this year. And so that'll be a new generation. So basically, any deprecation warnings that you see now, you want to get those sorted out now because those are going to be gone, theoretically.
And JSpecify support comes out there, right?
Yeah, and Spring Framework 7. So again, super important to be on the same page here and to understand the implications for you and your code base and the compiler warnings and all that. Okay, so we've got the, what have we got? We got Docker Compose support. We've got the web support. Let's add that. We're going to use a database. I'm going to use Postgres. Big fan of Postgres. You can use whatever you want. There's lots of good options here. I mean, you can use AI and all that other stuff, but we're just going to keep it very simple here. I need to do some ORM mapping, so there's a lot of good choices. You could use things like MyBetas, you could use Java OOQ, you could use lots of good things here. I'm going to use JPA because I make terrible life decisions, okay? So I'll use JPA. And then what else do we want? I guess we want the actuator. Do we have that in there? No, let's add that. Web, do I have web? Yeah, I've got the web, okay? So
and Docker Compose.
Docker Compose, that's a very good point. I got that, good. So hit create, okay? Now we've got a brand new project being initialized here, very convenient. And, this is a JPA-based application. And, we want to actually work in terms of our code. We're going to create a very simple domain here. So I guess the first thing I want to do is create a service. What kind of service? Well, I'm going to create a Spring Bean that's an @service. So I'll use the new Spring Java component support. Look how convenient that was. New Spring Java component. And now I get like a menu. A list of options.
Like in a restaurant, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to create the adoptions service, yeah. Oh, it heuristically knew to pre-select @service because I typed in service. So good. Okay, also, look at that. Not public. Love this. Huge fan. So happy. Like, remember, by default, types in Java are not public. Your classes should not be public unless you want them to be, right? Don't opt out. Opt in to public, okay? So class adoption service, I'm going to make this transactional, okay? And, I can imagine this is going to work with some data, right? We're going to need some data. We're going to need what? A person
and a dog.
And a dog.
That's enough for the universe.
That's enough.
Right?
That's the entire universe for a lot of people, right? So here we're going to create an entity called person, and I'll make this a JPA entity, and our entity will have an integer ID, and I guess that's it. We don't even need a name for them, who cares? There's that, generated value. That looks okay, right? So then we need a dog. I need a dog type, okay? So dog, okay, and we'll make this an entity, and we'll say private integer ID, private string name.
Dogs deserve their names.
Of course. Yeah. Dogs are the best, okay? Okay, so that's the essence of what I want, but it's not really what I need, is it? I need to do all that, and I need some constructors, and I need some more constructors. This is just for JPA, right? Why, JPA, why? And then we got to go back to the person. The person will have a collection, a set of pets, right?
You think that we need more than one, right?
Surely. Okay. So we're going to do a one to, we'll do a relationship here. So dogs, new hash set, okay? And what is this going to be? Many to one?
One to many,
right?
To many.
One to many.
No. Yeah.
Thank you. And mapped by owner, okay? Or just person, better yet. And then I can hit enter, add the other side relationship, call that person. Is that right?
Yep.
And then now I go to dog, and dog has this right here, and it has the getter. How convenient.
I don't think that we need optional fools, though.
Okay, I'm with you. There we go. Okay, there we go. Superb. So move that up maybe a little bit. I love that. I love it. It's just that was just easy. I don't like having to remember which annotation goes where. The IDE just had my back there. Okay, now let's same thing. Create the constructors. Here we go. Create some more constructors again for JPA and nobody else. Okay. So here we go. YJ. And we want some getters and setters. Okay. Good. We want a toString maybe. Fine. Good. Okay, and I didn't do a toString over here, again, because I'm negligent. Okay, there we go. So now I've got our basic entity. I think I want to start implementing these methods, and I can imagine there's going to be at least 4 methods, right? We're going to have one to create a person, right? Mm-hmm. Here we go. We'll have another one to create a dog.
We need people to adopt dogs.
Right. That's the only reason, right? They're so good. Okay, and then we want to have one to return all the dogs, dogs by name, right? The dog name. And we'll come back to this in a second. And then finally, we want something, we want a method to do adoption. So there we go.
The most important one.
The most important one, right? Okay. So what I need is a repository. Normally, if I want to work with data in the Spring ecosystem, I use a Spring data repository. It's a trivial thing to write, right? I just create an interface. But even that, sometimes if you're in the code, if you're in the zone, doesn't feel very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Space. I'm going to start typing person repository, and look at that. It says new repository, right?
Yeah.
New repository. This doesn't exist yet, but it's saying, hey, it looks like you want that. It's reasonable to want that. It's a thing that you might do where you're trying to create a repository for an entity which you happen to have on the class path. So hit enter. And now it's asking you, what kind of repository would you like? Well, I would like a JPA one. But you can see that there are any number of different interesting options here. Okay, that's so cool. So I've got a new person, okay, and I'll just return that, okay? Nice.
Yeah, it looks like complete method, right?
Yeah, super good.
It's off its job.
And what about this one? Same thing. I'll say dog repository dot save, and what kind of repository do I want? JPA repository dot save new dog, passing in null for the ID and the name. Okay, and then I'm done. Same thing. I've got now 2 repositories that have just been created for me automatically, and they're packaged private, as well they should be, because I didn't ask for anything else. I'm ready to go, right? I'm already done with 2 out of the 4 methods here. This one is kind of interesting. I want to do a query against the dog repository. So there is no method that does what I'm trying to do. You know, people who know Spring Data know that there's some very convenient built-in methods to find things by ID, find all, save, delete. But I want to do something where I do a query, where I do a predicate, you know, find all dogs where the name is I like.
That's what your method says, right?
Right. So I can do find by name. Look at that. Containing ignore case, right? So it's asking me, do I want to create this method? Do I want to support pageability, sorting, limit, sort, limit? All this stuff is there for me out of the box. I pass in name and it's done. Now again, Spring Data does 90% of the magic here, right? It's the work is, you know, there's a repository that has a method interface name, right? And that, by convention, will evaluate into a JPLQL query that's something like select all from person where name, where, you know,
Yep.
person.p.name equals or I like you know, I like name, right, with parenthesis percent I mean. So that's done by convention, but I didn't even have to go to the repository to do that. I just started typing the thing that I want, and then IntelliJ, understanding that and kind of like...
But just think about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to interact with your data and you need some certain query to be in place, and then you start typing it and you see it's not there.
Right.
And then you move to your repository just to see if it's not there, but it's not there, right?
Right.
What the chance that you're going to say, okay, I don't need that query? It's like 0, right?
Exactly.
So just go ahead. You don't need to switch your context.
So now, exactly, the context, there's a cost to every time you switch to a different code page. That's why for small code bases...
It's even hard for AI, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Switching contexts.
Even so, especially for small code bases, just to keep things all in my face and so I can kind of understand what's going on, I start everything in the same code page, right?
Yeah.
So I can keep seeing what's going on and I don't have to switch context a lot. And now, again, I got the best of both worlds. I've got nice, well-structured code and everything in its place, but also I didn't have to switch contexts, right, to get this thing in that I want.
That was it. It was invented for, right?
Yep, super good. Okay, now we want to adopt a dog, right? So first things first, I'm going to say person repository, right? Dot find by ID, okay, person ID, and if they're present, then I'm going to get the dog. I'll say find by ID. I'll say dog set person. I'll say dog repository. Okay, dot save dog, and then we'll say person repository dot save person. I guess the person should be saved first. What do you think? And then, was that true? Maybe the dog should be saved first. I don't know. So then we do person.
Dog should be saved first, and then it should have person inside of the dog. Yeah, that
looks okay.
Work. That's gonna work.
Okay, sounds good. So now I've got.
If it doesn't work, we just make it vice versa.
It's easy.
Nobody knows.
This is an easy problem to fix. Okay, so now we did this. We created the entity, and you know we've got the entity. We can tell Spring Boot to and Hibernate behind the scenes to automatically generate the SQL for us when the application starts. But there is a there's a different way we could have done that, isn't there?
Yeah, it can be vice versa, by the way. I remember when we were working on GP Buddy, which was a plugin that I previously worked for, and we just needed to prioritize our features, and we ran kind of like a little question on Twitter, as I remember, and we asked, what do you prefer to do first? Database, like columns, tables, and everything, all the relations there, or entity first. So it's Java first or data model in the database first.
Right.
And you know, it was the worst answer for prioritization.
No.
It was 50-50.
No.
So we needed to support both. And obviously, it can work for you like this, or you can use Flyway. We also have support for this. Liquibase, whatever, version control systems for databases up there. We support all of them. And we provide nice features where you can just generate all the queries you need. But for those who prefer creating their database first, then we support reverse engineering, and this reverse engineering thing is going to be improved in some upcoming versions.
So can I show this little video?
Yeah. That's a sneak peek.
This is a sneak peek at a feature. You want to talk us through it?
Yeah. See here, you have a features table, and then a newly added developers one, but we don't have this relation in our code base. So when we switch to the code base and we just start typing developer, the IDE understands that you actually want to add this relation between a developer that exists in the database, and it brings you this piece of code. But like this class doesn't exist. So you have a way how to create an entity with minimal viable code, and minimal viable code as per GPA is the class with only ID in it, right? And we read the type of ID you have there. We understand it is identity, and then you can fill it up with whatever columns you want gradually. And you can see all of them right in the completion in the most regular way you used to see like options in the code that you can apply.
I love this very much.
And I promise you,
Yeah?
we're gonna support it for Spring Data GDBC also.
It's like the best thing ever. Okay, so that's great. That's a really cool feature. It's already useful. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people using JPA. This will be very, very useful. You have the reverse eng Maven plugin, the tools that have been around for years. I don't know if people there's stuff like that. You can get the job done. It's just no fun. And it's not integrated. That's the whole beauty of this, right? Is the IDE gives you this immersive view of here's what's over there, here's what's in your code. You can reconcile, you can cherry pick one thing from the other side.
It intersects like all the sources for knowledge and brings this power to your coding ability, right?
Super good. Super big fan. So, okay. So I'm going to start the application up. Let's see if that's working. Yeah. So go over here. And this is going to connect to a database, right? And, one thing that's kind of interesting is that I didn't specify a database. I mean, I specified
You added support for Docker Compose.
That's true. So if you go here, compose.yaml, it is a Docker file that Spring Initializer through the IDE wizard created for us. And awkwardly, I didn't specify the port. I didn't export the port, right? This is the port to which the service will bind internally, but I haven't made it public. And yet somehow Spring, through the connection details mechanism, is automatically connecting to that during development time. Right? So obviously when you deploy your Spring Boot application to production, it's not going to try and find a local Docker image. You have to be very explicit about which data source you want your application.
Then you would need just to define the data source normally in application properties or wherever.
Right, and for years, even though we've had this great support for Docker Compose, because I love IntelliJ so much and I use it so often, I have gone in and I've specified the URL, the password, the username, just as they're redundant because it's already specified here. And the reason I love doing that is I can click on the little icon that pops up, and then that creates a data source for me in the data source database panel here. But now,
till recently, it was a big trouble if you don't expose the port.
Right, I had to go change the port and then explicitly spell out the properties there, and then now I just start the program, and IntelliJ is smart enough to know, hey, you've already got a connection running. Let us connect for you. You can show it here. Look at that, huh? So there's our two tables. Any data in there? Nope. Good. That was created by.
I would be surprised if there was data there.
Yeah. It is really good. It's already leagues ahead of us, right? So we've got our database. It's connected. Interestingly, though, if I stop the program, the data source disappears. and actually, this is it's not IntelliJ's fault.
It's by design, actually.
It's Spring Boot, right? Spring Boot right now is set by default to start the Docker image and to stop the Docker image on every single reset. So I don't want that. So what I'll do is I'll say start only. So it'll start it if it's not running, and it'll leave it going if it's already there. So I'll go ahead and restart. And now IntelliJ will still flush out that, here's that new view. You click on that, refresh, okay. IntelliJ will, this will disappear as soon as I disconnect. You could, if you wanted to, if you have a static port and all that, and you wanted this to persist, you could click on clone and persist. Super useful, right? Okay, so now I'm connected. I've got data on the database. I've got no data on the database, but I do have tables. I think we should remedy that, huh? So let's create something to initialize the database. We'll go to our application class over here, and I'll create a single Spring application runner. And this runner is just going to be a thing that Spring will call back when the application starts up. In order for it to do its work, I'm going to depend on those collaborating objects, aren't I? I'm going to say, I'm going to create a dog, right? So I'll say, actually, let's use the dog service, or adoption service, rather. Create dog, okay? And I'm going to call this Peanut. I'm going to Prancer, okay? Here's that, okay? And var, okay? And I'm going to create a person, okay, and adoption service dot create person, fine, and I want the adoption service to be used to adopt the person, not the dog. The person's going to adopt the dog, right? Although really,
it's vice versa.
I think it's really vice versa. Yeah, the dogs often adopt the people too. Look at that! I just started typing, and I got automatically, I got the collaborating objects automatically injected into the constructor for me. If this class were package private, this would be a package private constructor. Since it's public, I got a public constructor. Love that.
It's your feature, by the way. You requested it on X, right?
I'm a huge fan. Huge fan. Okay. So, okay, if we restart, or actually if I just Alt-Tab away, the DevTools kicks in, and the DevTools is a Spring Boot mechanism, but IntelliJ automatically sets it up so that if you have that in the class path, when you open the project, it'll automatically, honor that and then kick it off, so that anytime you Alt-Tab to a browser to check your changes, it reloads the class.
You're running the latest version of your beans definitions, right?
Right, and as a result, this has already been initialized. So that's great. We're already doing good. We got data in the database. I've typed in maybe 10 lines of code so far. We've done nothing, The IDE is basically writing and thinking for me. But I do think that, we've got a lot of data here. We've got a lot of types. We've got a lot of code, and it's so far it's kind of not so hard to understand what's happening. I can just look at this package, but when you structure your code base, there's a lot of different ways you can layer and think about the arrangement of your code, and obviously I'm a big fan of Spring Modulith. We'll talk about that in a second, but even no matter what your structure is, it can be a little hard to kind of figure out how things relate to each other, right?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite features in in Spring Debugger and so on is the logical view. So if I go to, what's a good class to go to, do you think? If I go to
just central data class, it's a dog for us, right?
The most central.
Yeah.
So if I go to dog here, and then I look at the logical structure there, oh, that's so good. What is the difference? Oh, that's so cool. So the logical shows me column mappings, right? I can see how the fields in the database table map to the
Do you
private.
see the links there?
Yeah.
You can tap on them, and it will bring you to the point in the database.
It's so cool. Look at that. Okay, so if I go over here, again, integrated development environment. This is what I want. The IDE knows what I'm trying to get done here, and it's showing me context that's super valuable and letting me drive forward, okay? So I've got the person. So a dog, in turn, has a mapping to a person object. I can double click on that, drill down, and I can see the ID, I can see the dog reference and so on. I can see reference by, I can see which repositories there are, right? And I can see where the repository is injected into the adoption service. I can see all the different methods that are available. I can see where it's referenced. I can see just everything you'd want to see, right? This context helps me make changes to the code and understand what I'm doing and understand the impact of those changes with ease. You know what else I bet it helps with?
What's that?
AI.
Yeah. Actually, it was designed. Initially, it was designed for AI, not for a human being.
Right.
It just appeared that it's also useful for us.
Right.
But initially, it was the idea that we want to take a look from a perspective of a certain object. If I'm an entity, then I have repository that is used by a number of services, and these services, they act on other services. And the other services then get exposed by certain controllers. And actually, that's what we can do. We are a dog, like we are an object, a dog there.
Right.
We have a role to be saved to the database, to be fetched from the database, right?
Right.
Then we see like another object that covers it, repository, which also has its own role in Spring, right?
Right.
Then it gets used by the service layer, then it gets used by controllers layer, and it's all sorted here. So, and it allows us to feed this chain of logical connections between different objects to AI to provide a sufficient context for generation. By the way, let's try it.
So I'm going to create a controller here. I'm going to create a controller called adoption controller, okay? And I'm going to use @controller. There we go.
Use controller, right? Not REST controller.
Right. And the reason is because this isn't REST. This is an HTTP endpoint. I mean, technically, there's no reason you couldn't use @REST controller. It is just an alias or a synonym for @controller plus response body. But if you're being a Rastafarian, being very pedantic about it, this is technically not
I see what I mean.
compliant, right?
Thank you for answering a question that I had for years. It's like why George Long doesn't use REST controllers. Now it's all clear.
So I noticed a couple things. So I am logged into the AI assistant here, right? Sometimes you have to make sure you're logged in. It'll prompt you to log in or to say accept. And if you haven't done that, make sure you're doing that. I could originate the change that I want from either side. Right, I could go from here and just say, please build please expose the adoptions service in this controller, maybe via this controller. I could do that and hit tab, and would that invoke the AI?
Yep.
You want to try that?
It does. Let's try. Okay. But when you work with AI, it's always bad. Right, but it becomes like more and more. It advances over time. Like a year ago. Yeah, see,
it's pretty good actually so far.
Yeah, now with time it becomes more winning game. Like a year ago, it would generate something like different to you.
This is actually great. Look at this. It got everything I wanted. It's got request params here. It's got path variables there. Okay, I'm accepting.
Request params.
Yeah, I did it right, and there, I'm done. I did the work. Can I get a paycheck now? Like, is that? That's great.
We could use also path variables, right?
Well, it did. It used path variables here, where I wanted it, and then for this, it did a great job. It reads
your mind.
Yeah, actually, we've done this demo a few times. Some of the results were subpar.
Yeah. It was
fine.
You never know.
But this is way better. This is actually really good.
To me, see, like AI feature to me is not like providing the already ready-made code. It's providing you with a template that is really close to what you need in the end.
And it's iterative. You can talk to it, right? That's the whole point of this chat box over here. Is you can say, oh, okay, this is great, but would you do that, right? And it's like well, you and I are pair programming, but now there's three of us now.
Yeah.
Okay, well that was easy.
Four, actually four because I have my personal context on AI.
Oh, right. Okay, so four of us. So okay, I think we should try it out. But one thing I want to do, I'm going to make this a transactional. Don't leave. It's okay.
Okay.
I'm going to just make this controller transactional and
don't repeat it at home, right?
Never do this at home. So we're going to restart the application. It should the dev tools should have kicked in. There we are. Okay. So now I want to let's try making a request. And this is another one of my favorite features in IntelliJ. IntelliJ understands that this is a web endpoint. I can click on that. Right. That's a post. It'll make a post to the person's endpoint. Or let's say go over here. I want to get the dog details by name. Drive a request that way. Right. Look at that. That is so good. So if I go over here, it says and the name is okay. That's pretty good. So I'll say name is equal to, did we say Prancer? Is that the dog we've got in the database? I think so. So let's try this. Okay. What did we get back?
A JSON.
Content type.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh.
Do you see the link? Just
there it is.
Yeah, here we go.
Prancer. I think we've got too much. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I started from the dog and I got the person. Right. And the person has multiple dogs because we've done this multiple times. So let's clean things up quickly here. Adoptions application. And I'll go back to this code. And just very, very quickly, I'm just going to reset everything. So we want to reset, which one comes first? I guess the aggregate root goes last. So the dog database, we clean that out first. And then the...
we clean up dogs and then people, because people only need for adopting dogs, right?
Right. And then the people, the person repository delete all. Okay. So try that again. And then now we try this one request one more time. Where's my thing here? Recent files. Here we go. This one. Okay. Run. Okay. There we go. So we've got the ID is 52, the name is Prancer, and there's the person, and the person has Prancer, and it's kind of recursive.
Yeah.
So, it just impressed that it even got that far. Great. Okay, so this is really good. Like I'm actually just iterating very quickly. Now I want to debug some stuff about this. I want to like understand what's happening here, you know? And the logical view gives me a view of my code design time artifacts, but at runtime, I want to understand what my application is doing. So if I go over here, you know, I've got the Spring Boot actuator, and some of that gives me some information, you know, and you can see some of that mirrored already here in these endpoints in the output. But this is old news, right? This console, this endpoint. Health.
It's been there for quite a while.
Bean.
Yeah, it's been
there. Oh. Anyway, I've got all this stuff here. I've got all sorts of good stuff. But I really, there's a lot of insight that this debugger, the Spring debugger, can give me above and beyond that. So let's drive a request now to the dogs endpoint. Let's go to the adoption controller. Okay, I'll put a breakpoint here in this one, where I find a dog by its name, okay? And then we'll go back to our, close that, run this again. Okay, so now I've got, look at that, I've got a ghost object. What is that?
Actually, it exists. You don't know, but transaction exists there, right? You don't see it in your source code, but it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Right.
And we show all the objects that accompany your current context, and transaction is certainly the one.
Right.
And it's just not just a transaction, right? Transaction has so many facets you can look into. It can be read-only. It can contain L1 cache if you're using specifically JPA, and so on and so forth. And we are trying to bring all this information to you so you can operate with full knowledge about the point where you just like stop the execution of your program.
Right.
And you know what's interesting? Sometimes you don't even know where this transaction comes from.
Well, it is a declarative thing in Spring, isn't it? It's a annotation. And so, yeah, somewhere along the lines, there's some aspect-oriented thing that's instantiating that transaction. But if you're down, say, for example, in the layer of the service, if I go over here and I forward my execution, I want to know where this transaction originated, right?
Exactly.
So I can click now, navigate to source, and it took me to the genesis of the transaction. Remember, we added transactional to the controller, so all the methods in this component are now transactional, and so there's a nested transaction by the time I get to the service level, right?
Yeah.
That's super cool. It gives me context that I need to know about. It's real, right? And even better, like you said, if I explore this, I can see whether it's read-only, what isolation level, all that kind of stuff. Right now,
propagation behavior, right?
Propagation, super important. Right now, though, the entity cache is 0. Well, I can use this debugger. And the nice thing about this debugger is I have access to every Spring Bean in the entire context.
Even ones that you don't have in the context of the current file.
Right. So it's just all Spring Beans. It just gives me a context. It's like saying, here's an application context. Use whatever you want to try and poke at the state.
All objects are there.
Right.
Just use them. Right.
So I can just do a hi or something like that, publish a message using the Spring application event publisher, right? Done. But also, like, let's say I wanted to, like, say, dog repository.
Yeah. Just trigger some
find all. Okay. And then I go over here, and now it says, hey, we've got 2 entities. Or the L2 cached expanded live as I'm working with it, right? So this invisible context, super useful. It's there. It's always been there, but now I can put my, not just my finger, but I can put the breakpoint on it, right? Kind of, so to speak, and I can evaluate it. This ability to evaluate anything in the Spring context, super useful. But, you know, objects are not the only way that we affect change in a Spring Boot application. A lot of times we use configuration.
Yes, for sure. And sometimes it's just a pure magic, you know? Like you get a value and you don't know where it comes from. Let's try to mess up with this.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to let's stop this, right? Or go here. Go back to the beginning of the program. Where's my application here? Application. And I'm going to create a program, a runner rather, a Spring Boot application runner that prints out a message, okay? So a message runner. And I'm going to create a property in my property file, and this property will be adoptions.message equals hello. Okay?
Yep.
So it means just hello in English. Sure. So I'm gonna bind that. I'm gonna create a new Spring component here, a new configuration properties down there, and we're gonna call this adoptions properties. Okay, and there we go. I'm going to say this is a prefix with adoptions. Great. In this case, I want this to be a record. That's okay. And I'll make it a string message. I'll have a key adoptions.message, right? The property is the sub-property of that prefix. And of course, I now need to register that. I say enable configuration properties, adoption properties. Okay, great. So now if I go back to my application.properties, even though I haven't registered the Spring configuration processor, I already get auto-completion, right? It's IntelliJ is smart enough to map the property value to this Java object in my code. And now if I go to my runner and I inject that same object here, I can just, okay. There you go. Goodbye to that and goodbye to this. And I can, let's see here. Good. I'm going to say adoption properties dot message. Okay. Look at that.
See how it injected the value?
So good. I love it. Big fan. So let's move that over there. Java 24 lets me get that. Okay. So now I've got the value here. If we run the program, what do you think it's going to show us?
It's obviously going to be hello.
Right, we expect it to be hello. But this is being resolved via the environment. Ultimately, Spring is looking at the environment, which is like a hash map, and it's saying, I've got this key called adoptions.message. Give me all the property sources. It's a chain of responsibility, so there's 0 to n property sources that might have a value for that, and let me use that to resolve this request. In this case, the request is being resolved as hello. But you might want to externalize your configuration. It's typical.
There are multiple ways how we can override that, right?
Right.
We can, for example, implement an additional profile, or we can run a configuration server.
Right, the Spring Cloud config server. That's a great idea. So let's go and create a new Spring Cloud config server. So I'll create a new, I guess I go File, New Project. Okay, same thing as before. We're going to call this config. I'll use Java 24. Okay, I'm going to use Apache Maven. I'm just going to call it config. Hit next. We'll use the GraalVM native image support. We'll use the config server support, and we're going to use the web support. Okay, hit create. And I'm just going to point this to a directory full of configuration, anything managed by Git, be it on your local file system or GitHub or GitLab or whatever you want, right? So I'll do that. Let's go ahead and specify a little configuration for the config server. I know, very meta. Okay, so git URI, home, desktop, config. Okay, and then finally, just to sort of drive home the point, I'll tell it @enable config server, and we'll start this up. Here we go. And now I'm going to go back and my adoptions application, we don't have the config client. So again, IntelliJ to the rescue. I go to pom.xml. I go here. I say I want to add a Spring Boot starter, even though I forgot to add it. You know, I'm not
I always
stranded.
forget things.
Yeah, me too. Who doesn't? Things change. So I just add the config client, and it's just as though I had generated the thing, and it even added the bill of materials for me. So it's all there now. I can go back to my configuration, configuration property file, and I'll tell it to import from the config server, okay? And I'll do a full restart this time because it's a class path change, right? And now, when I print out the value...
His configuration server, by the way, is the top priority thing.
Right, because it's the most externalized. Like, you don't want it's 12-factor style configuration, right? You want to have, if you promote the binary from one environment to another, the binary doesn't change. Right? It's just the configuration values via environment variables or externalized files, or in this case, the Spring Cloud config server, right? Or HashiCorp Vault. We have the same kind of mechanism for that. But look at that. So now I'm staring this right in the face. It says hello, but the actual resolved value is ni hao, which means hello in Chinese, right? And it's being printed out there. So the IDE is smart enough to understand that the property source is actually a little different than what I think it is. And if I go to my debugger here, where's my beans? No.
So you never get lost. You always open application properties you want to look at, and if there are some differences detected, you're going to be seeing the effective value.
Right. Now, I did get a little lost. Where is my
HTTP?
Oh, I have to run. Oh, right. I have to break point. Yeah. Okay. Good point. So we go to our config file. I don't know, .http. Is that in here somewhere? Do we do?
Yeah. You just go REST HTTP. REST API HTTP.
Is it this one?
Yeah, I believe so.
No, that's the old one.
It's a different.
It's in here somewhere. No, we'll find it. Don't worry, friends. It's down here. Maybe.
You just generate a new one.
Right. Okay, there. Let's find this one. Here we go. So now that I've done that, now I want to actually look at the properties, and I can go down here, and it says Spring.properties, right? And I can look at adoptions.
Yeah, there is a new evaluator coming with Spring Debugger.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's brand new.
It's amazing. So now I can ask it to give me to evaluate properties.
And it has auto-completion.
So cool. So cool. And if I look at this, I can actually look at I can say, okay, what's the source, detect the source, and it's telling me here's the place it's used, and it's actually telling me, hey, I'm resolving this from the config server. So now I know exactly the context of that derived value. It might be a little confusing staring at it as I am right now in this little place where that's arriving from, right? So that is super, super good. I think I think we did a pretty good job there, my friend. I think we got through a number of different things here.
Actually, we can show more, right?
Yeah.
Of Spring Debugger, but there was a talk by Marco. You know Marco, right?
Marco.
Yes. There was a talk, very detailed talk about Spring Debugger and what we have there at Spring.io.
Yeah.
And we're really desperately waiting until this recording gonna be published, and then all of you will be able to see how it acts, and then can install it and then check it for you. Whatever feedback you have, if something doesn't work, just keep feedback coming. That's very important for us. This is the only point why we're not bundling this yet, because we want all the problems, all the yes.
It's available. It's just not bundled and installed by default.
It will be.
Yeah.
But we need bugs from you first. We want to see that bugs are coming. That means that somebody's using it, right?
Yeah.
And then when all of them get exhausted, meaning that maybe everybody just gave up, or it's finally at the level of quality when we can bundle it. So try it. Send it send us to us your feedback, whatever problems you encounter, whatever ideas you have, what we can implement there more. We have some ideas also, but it would be great if we get your ideas.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the entire point of the Spring Debugger is to unreveal the beautiness of Spring and how it works under the hood, right?
Yeah.
We want to show where it takes values, how you actually work with different parts of the application and so on and so forth. But there is one thing where we have the room for kind of uncertainty, right?
I think there's two things actually. The structure of our code, we just did it the old-fashioned way, right? But we didn't do modulith.
Yeah.
We could use Spring modulith. There's a new feature there, right?
Yeah. We're working now tightly with the Spring Monolith team and from Spring, and we are delivering this. By the way, we just decided to share it with all people around, and it's on your LinkedIn, right?
Can I show that?
Yeah, you
Okay,
can.
here we
You
go.
already showed it to entire universe, right?
Thank you for that. So here it is.
Yeah, here you can see that it's pure monolith thing, so you can see that some packages are locked, some packages are unlocked. You can go to the classes. We follow the rules provided by monolith. Rather, if you can actually inject things, or if you can inject, see, it's also in logical structure. You can see different modules. You see the green ones. These are unlocked. And you remember you used that feature of auto wiring. I call it auto wiring. It's double auto wiring.
Right.
And when you're going to be auto wiring, you're going to see this inclination mark, meaning that it's actually not what your program structure is supposed to do, right?
You're depending on a module-specific dependency that should not be made public.
Yeah, but if you intentionally want to do that, it's going to be a specific way how to add it right in place.
Right. Just
so
click
when
on the
you tap on it, see the bottom file, it was changed. It was changed, and so you can now legally depend on beans from another package.
I love this. So Spring Modulith is. I start all my projects that I care about. Anything that's going to last more than half an hour, I start with Spring Modulith because it is just a great way to start small, build clean, and scale out your code base in an elegant way, right? So this is having this built-in validation, because you get build time validation. You have to do a whole compile. I want this direct feedback right in the ID as I'm working at my fingertips. I don't want to wait for that context switch back to a console or something like that.
And what I like about this project structure is that you can get maximum from package private bins.
Right, exactly. Okay, so that's super good. That's a feature that's coming in a forthcoming version of IntelliJ IDEA. I can't wait for that. Another thing. And
another thing is Spring Data AOT. Did you hear about Spring Data AOT?
Well, yeah. I mean, are you talking about this? Our friends over on the Spring Data team announced they're working on. They're working on getting me a better browser. Apparently, come on. Okay, there we go. So this is a new feature. Basically, we have a mechanism in Spring Framework 6 in Spring Boot 3.0, which came out in 2022. So that's the old legacy generation, right? It's the current generation, but in November of this year, it'll be last generation. And that AOT engine pairs very nicely, like a bitterball in beer, with GraalVM. But you don't need to use GraalVM. It's just one of those really nice results because we do code generation at compile time.
Collateral benefit.
Yeah, and so the AOT repositories, super, super useful because what this is we actually reify. We actually generate a Spring Data repository for you and dump it out as a source code file that you can read and inspect. And now if you wanted to, if you're smart, you can like navigate and find the .java file and you can look at the code and it gives you some information. But again, I don't want to leave my ID for that.
Yeah, and specifically for that reason, we are preparing the feature where you will be able to first efficiently debug that. And if you open the video, it will show us how this thing gonna work. Can you please switch to... Yep.
Okay. Play this again. This is super cool.
Yeah, see, like you run the verify command, then all the source code is being generated, and now you can see all the queries. See? Like, it's exactly the queries that we're gonna run, and these queries are in the source code. So basically here you can see the GPQL part. It is gonna work the same for Spring Data GDBC. And here you can go to AOT implementation. So basically you can debug the actual implementation finally.
Right.
Derived method query is gonna just generate code that you can get through and see how it works. And if you have a failure there, you're gonna be seeing the actual point where it fails.
Right, instead of
that's
having...
really amazing.
Very amazing, because normally you inject the repository and it's a proxy and there's some abstract graph of calls there and it's very sort of opaque. This is super good. It just gives me visibility, and it's a great example of Spring and IntelliJ just working really well together.
Yeah, I like it.
I love it, man. This is all super, super good. Look, I didn't want to bring this up. Okay.
What was that?
I didn't want to bring this up, but I actually think that for all the great stuff that you've shown me and that we've shown the world today, I think there's a lot of great features here, but I couldn't help but notice that you've got a bad feature. Right?
No, it's no way. There is no way.
And I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if you. Okay, where is it? Where do I?
You mean the one that we can disable Spring Debugger?
Why would this be here? This is a terrible feature. This is a bug, and I think you should file a complaint.
Okay. You can report it to our issue tracker.
I would say I want to speak to management, but you are management when it comes to this stuff. So this is a little awkward, but I just feel like this is a terrible feature, and this should not be here. And this reminds me, look, we are in the same page, you and I. Okay? Yeah. We are in the same page. The team, those scoundrels, they did this to me as well. Okay? Years ago, they added this feature to JetBrains IntelliJ that disables the Spring Boot banner. Okay? Why would you ever want to do this? The Spring Boot banner, a work of art, okay? A masterpiece. And years ago, out of protest, I complained about this bitterly. And I said, I want this is ridiculous. I will not show people how to disable the Spring Boot banner. And then one of your colleagues, the amazing Jan Sebron, was nice enough to reply back with this. Now, the page is no longer on Twitter. Thankfully, it's been preserved. And here it is. He responded back with this kind fix. Again, this is back in 2016, right? And I said this will not be. And okay, so he responded back saying, "I shall distribute a patch that fixes this to the correct behavior. See screen below. Disabled by order of Josh Long." This is with the old dialogue. Okay.
Yeah, I see.
So I'm waiting for that to get merged. I'm sure it'll be soon, and maybe they can do the same for the disabling of Spring Boot debugger.
Yeah, we're gonna think about it definitely. You can file it in issue tracker and then see how many likes you're gonna get on that.
Okay, we'll do it. All right, thanks, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was absolutely great demo. Thank you very much for being with us here in Amsterdam. It's our office. How do you like our office, by the way?
Love your office. Love the community. Love Amsterdam. Everything's good.
Yeah, that's superb. Thank you very much for today. It's an enclosing talk for today. See you tomorrow.